I don't know that I've ever warmed up to an anime as much as I did to Skip and Loafer. The first episode, I was on the fence. It starts with a simple premise, maybe a bit lighthearted and goofy, with a clear romantic progression seemingly at hand. But as the season goes along, we slowly get to see its magic, the love that resides in every nook and cranny of this series. And that's the beauty of a show like this. Its heart radiates out, enriching everything around it. The softer and simpler animation style, the unique character designs, more on those later, the large and ebullient cast, all of them become the intricate designs adorning the larger story, creating an anime that is really special. But what specifically makes Skip and Loafer special? There's countless series about love and romance, and I've covered plenty of them on this very channel. I think what sets this anime apart from the rest are two things. First, the focus on self-love. More than anything else, Skip and Loafer is about how we feel about ourselves. Confidence versus doubt. Self-esteem versus self-criticism. These ideas are the main focus of the show. How we feel about ourselves impacts how we interact with our loved ones, too. And this is another point of emphasis for this series. Unlike other anime I've covered though, Skip and Loafer tweaks the usual formula and has Mitsumi, our protagonist, be a bastion of self-confidence and love. We'll tackle these two pieces of Skip and Loafer's puzzle today, and also draw a couple points of comparison to other series. As always, I'll give spoiler warnings when we get to that point. Enough prepping though, let's talk about it. Let's start with Skip and Loafer's central focus, self-love. For a genre that is centered around interpersonal relationships, Skip and Loafer really breaks from the mold. There are plenty of different connecting threads between our characters, but we first and foremost learn about what's going on inside their heads. Sosuke seems like a confident guy on the outside, but he grapples intensely with a lack of identity. He acted as a child because he wanted to make his mom happy, but that has obscured his own priorities and desires. He has put walls up around himself, and no one can get in. Being popular doesn't help. If anything, people drawing assumptions about him only encloses him more. Sosuke is alone and doesn't know who he is. He struggles with loving himself, because who is he? Other characters find themselves in the same place. Yuzuki is attractive and talented, but this led her to being ostracized when she was younger. It's not her fault, but how could this not impact her view of herself? Mika desperately wants to be wanted by everyone else, and her pursuit of desirability has made her competitive and bitter. The way that she acts, the clothes that she wears, they're just what she thinks everyone else wants. Not getting her desired results has turned her criticism inward, eroded her sense of self. I can keep going, by the way. Makoto assumes that she knows what everyone else thinks of her, and resents them for her perceived slights. Tokiko is so dedicated to her duties that she has lost sight of everything around her. This show is entirely built out of characters that are struggling to love themselves, and are unable to connect with everyone else due to being in their fortresses of isolation. So why do I think that this premise is so powerful? Because I think that it's real. Everyone is a little broken, and that's okay. The comforting part is that no one is alone in that. If we can start to pull our walls down, build strength through self-love rather than self-imposed isolation, the love that we find with others is equally essential and sustaining. Mitsumi's entire role as a protagonist is to be the person that helps everyone else start to break those walls down. Her heroic superpower, as it were, is her self-confidence, her ability to be proud of who she is. Mitsumi is not immune to doubts and failures, but right from the start we see that she is able to pick herself up when she falls, and this allows her to inspire everyone else to do the same. Each character that I mentioned before, Mitsumi helps them out of the pit they are sinking into. It's not too on the nose either. Simply by being herself and showing the love that she feels for others, Mitsumi inspires her friends to find that same love inside themselves. This is an important distinction that I think really elevates a show like Skip and Loafer. It's quiet with its commentary and messages. Often the characters will talk past each other, or beat around the bush when it comes to a sensitive topic. But that ends up feeling more potent, more real. It's hard to be vulnerable, to put into words something complicated and emotional. In the most important moments, less is more. Skip and Loafer nails this, making something that emanates love without speaking its message directly at you. We also have to briefly talk about the character designs for this anime. This show's philosophy towards characters' looks is one of the most unique and effective approaches I've seen. We're all familiar with the classic anime trope of one character being lauded as more attractive than everyone else. But in execution, it's like a minor difference at best, and everyone has the same face shape and flawless skin and giant eyes. Skip and Loafer's approach is way cooler. This show has an actual scale of physical attractiveness. The vast majority of characters, even the background people, are average looking. No ginormous eyeballs or perfectly proportioned features. Mitsumi, our leading heroine, has demonstrably plain features and notably small irises. The characters that are described as notably attractive, Sosuke and Yuzuki, get what I would call the usual anime character appearance. Ratcheting the scale down like that, and making the regular anime character the peak of attractiveness, is so clever. Having variability like this also lets you do really cool things with appearance to drive home messages and storylines. Mika is obviously meant to be one of the more attractive characters, but also just a little below people like Sosuke and Yuzuki's perfect features. Being able to see that for ourselves makes Mika's storyline far more impactful. And someone like Ririka has that model attractiveness, where she takes a perfect photo but is a little less perfect in person. It's almost like her bitterness towards life and Sosuke is visible on her person. You see how having a broader range of appearances gives you more tools to tell stories with. For a main romance that is built on the trope of average girl has popular guy fall in love with her, combining this visual style with an emotional core that is truly heartwarming lets this anime destroy the mold that you might be tempted to place it into, and make something all its own. Now we're going to move into comparing Skip and Loafer to a couple of other anime. Remember how I mentioned that Mitsumi stands out as a bastion for self-love and a helping hand for those around her? This story structure is pretty unique actually. Normally, the main characters of these romance slice-of-life anime are the ones that have to learn to love themselves and receive help from others along the way. So that's the main point of comparison we'll look at today. I'll make sure to include timestamps to skip ahead to if you want to avoid spoilers. Let's look at The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity as our first point of comparison. You know how I just said that most shows involve intrapersonal struggles within the main character? Yeah, Fragrant Flower is the perfect example of that. The first season is centered around Rintaro learning to love both himself and those around him. Kaoruko, his mom, his friends, they all provide helping hands on our hero's journey. Now, the interesting part of Fragrant Flower is that it doesn't reserve all struggles for just our protagonist, and builds out a cast of complex characters. But it's impossible to deny that the core structure of this season is the inverted version of Skip and Loafer's. Rintaro is brooding, insecure, doubtful. In his best moments, he hurdles these obstacles and embraces the love that he feels. Mitsumi, on the other hand, sees the best in others and is eager to share her love. and it's only in her worst moments that she puts some walls up. Both great shows, but structured in completely opposite ways. The other anime I want to talk about is Your Name. There were a lot of off-the-wall picks for stories about love and self-love, but I wanted to touch on this one the most. The entire idea of self-love is warped in this movie with the body-switching magic at play. What does it mean to love yourself if you're in someone else's body? What does it mean to fall in love with the person you swapped with? Being in this situation sort of puts walls up around our two protagonists together, isolated in their situation, but allowing each of them access to each other's lives. Vulnerability is a key topic here, and I think in many ways love and being vulnerable are one and the same in this film. Our two protagonists both struggle to love themselves, and through their experiences grow together. In that sense, this is sort of like a merged version of Skip and Loafer and Fragrant Flower, with a lot of magic and spirituality interjecting into my comparison. There's a lot more to dig into with Your Name, but that can wait for its own love and anime. Skip and Loafer is a wonderful anime. I love the way that it captures the difficulties of growing up. Who didn't have struggles with identity and self-esteem in high school, even with friends and family offering support? The story that this show weaves through the first season is heartwarming in a way that rings true, and serves as a valuable reminder for any of us. Accepting and loving yourself is the most important thing you can do, and will only serve to enhance the rest of the relationships in your life. It may not always be easy, but it definitely will always be worth it. And that ends this week's episode of Love and Anime. I hope you enjoyed. I've been dying to make an episode on Skip and Loafer since I finished watching it a couple of weeks ago. If you enjoyed and want to see more, liking and subscribing helps a ton, as does hitting the hype button on the mobile app. As always, I'm SlamAnime, and I'll see you on Monday for Split Screen.